Hey everyone, it's Bridget here from Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, wishing you a wonderful day. Wherever you are in the world, I'm hoping you're well and I hope you are safe. Thank you for joining me tonight. We have a very special Christmas cooking class tonight. It is one that I do pretty much every Christmas. If this is your first Christmas with us here in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, you'll get used to me doing Pavlova. It is definitely one of the staple recipes that always makes an appearance at this time of the year. Why is that? That is because in Australia and New Zealand, it is Christmas fodder. It is what we put on our Christmas table. It is what we enjoy. It's what we love. It's what we are used to as well. So I make sure to give as many options, as many varieties, but also to give you guys the classics too. And let's be honest, this is a classic. Whether you believe it's an Australian recipe, whether you know it's a New Zealand one, it is an absolute classic. It is soft meringue. It is, just the most wonderful cloud-like dessert. And it's very easy to make and even very easy to make sugar-free. So if you have my Christmas ebook, which is, let me just show you, it's this one here. I'll show you the front cover. If you have my Christmas ebook, looks like that, Bridget's Healthy Christmas. There's 50 recipes in here, Christmas and seasonal recipes. I also have the recipe for the Pavlova that I'm doing tonight. I have one, what we're doing in this episode is we're going to do one that is shaped like a Christmas wreath, which is really fabulous. I'm going to show you how to do that. But I'm also going to show you guys how to make little individual mini ones, which I think are not just perfect for Christmas, but fantastic for like dinner parties and things like that as well. And in that ebook, I have a recipe for a Pavlova that's made with monk fruit sweetener and inulin. I also have another recipe that is made with lucuma, which is another type of natural fruit sugar. Tonight, or today, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make a Pavlova with our zero ash sugar pure erythritol. There's a few little variations that you will find in the ebook just to make it that much more delicious. So I would love you to come and join me down on my bench. Let's get into, like, we're doing 2 Pavlova recipes tonight. We're going to do the wreath and I'm going to show you guys how to make little individual mini ones. They're all spectacular. That's the main thing. So come on down to my bench. I have to lean far. Oh, you're a long way away from me today. All right, there you go. Okay, here we go. So the first thing that we want to think about is obviously the eggs. They are the prime ingredient when it comes to Pavlova. Now, please make sure, really, really important when it comes to eggs, make sure that they are at room temperature. So you don't want to have eggs straight from the fridge, or you won't get that lovely rise that you require when it comes to Pavlova. So room temperature eggs, not out of the fridge. If you, best idea, if your eggs are in the fridge now, leave them out overnight before you do a Pavlova. Some people, what they do is they actually put eggs just into some lukewarm water, like drop the whole egg into lukewarm water, leave it there for 5 minutes. You'll lose the coldness from the fridge and then you can make your Pavlova. But the best way to do it is just to leave your eggs out of the fridge for at least, overnight before you actually attempt to make this dish. So I'm using 6 eggs here, and this will make one good size large Pavlova that's probably going to feed 8 to 10 people. And when you think about, even if you buy the best eggs possible, you buy the most amazing eggs, they're organic, they're free range, they're incredibly biodynamic. This recipe will still not cost you egg-wise more than sort of $4 or $5. It's pretty amazing considering you're going to be serving 8 to 10 people. So when it comes to eggs, I'm actually going to separate my eggs into 2 separate bowls, because the other thing about Pavlova that you really need to manage is Pavlova will not, get lovely and fluffy if there is any yolk in the Pavlova. So it's a really good idea. I could just do it straight into my bowl here, my mixing bowl, but if you want to be really careful, I would suggest that you actually start your Pavlova like this, and you separate your egg whites and your yolks before it goes anywhere near your mixing bowl, because then you know that you have got a safe product. Because if there is any, some of the important things, you may have heard this before, people say Pavlova can be really tricky to do. It's not that tricky, to be completely honest with you, but there's just a few watch points. One of those watch points is no egg yolk in the egg whites. You have to keep them completely separated. And you see this technique that I'm using? this is the technique I recommend. Rather than, you may have seen some other techniques, but this is what I've always done as a chef. I break the egg in half, and then I transfer the yolk from shell to shell, and as I'm doing that, the white just naturally slips away into the bowl. Easiest way to do it, especially when you're doing a lot of eggs. And I have done a lot of eggs for my time. I've done heaps. In fact, I've lost count of the amount of pavlovas I've made. Literally, you know, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of pavlovas I have cooked in my career. So I know a few things about pavlova. So we've got the white separated here. You can see I've got no egg and I've got no shell. Nobody wants a crunchy bit of shell in their pavlova. So this is a really nice way to make sure that you don't get it. Now these guys here, you can obviously keep and use on other things. Don't throw them away. This is gold as well, right? This is really good quality, you know, healthy fat in there. So just cover those up, pop those in the fridge. You could make a dairy-free custard with those, of course. You do lots of amazing things with the egg yolk. So don't throw them away. But of course, when it comes to pavlova, all we are dealing with is the egg whites. So they're going to go into my mixer here. And this is definitely a recipe where you want to have a machine. You do not want to be doing this by hand. And I'm thinking that you'll probably understand why in a second. So I'm going to turn this on to high. Might get a bit noisy. May not. Go over there. Sit there. Right. Okay. I probably need to turn it off just so I can talk you guys through the next set of ingredients. I will continue this in a second. So I'm just going to talk you very quickly through the dry ingredients. So I'm going to mix all the dry ingredients into my bowl here, and then when my egg whites get to a certain height, I'm then going to slowly begin to incorporate that. Like I said, it's easy stuff when you look at the process. So I'm going to work straight onto my scales, as I always like to do. And remember, this is a recipe using our zero airs sugar, pure erythritol. And what we're putting into here, we're going to be putting in here 100 grams, which is 3.5 ounces of our zero as sugar is going in there. We are also putting in some of our pure as inulin powder as well. So we're turning this pavlova is now being converted into a prebiotic. So it's good for our gut health. Not many pavlovas can say that, right? So we're going to add 70 grams of our inulin powder, which is around about 2.4 ounces of inulin goes in there. As well as that, remember, it's all the dry ingredients. I'm putting in a half teaspoon of xanthan gum is going in there as well. Now the xanthan gum is just to help to bind everything together. Let's also look at our cream of tartar. And we're putting in 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar. You can get that in your baking section if you're wondering. Cream of tartar, that is going in there as well. And that is all our dry ingredients. I'm going to stir that, but now we're just going to spend some time making our egg whites lovely and fluffy. So if you've got any lumps, I don't know if you can hear me. If you got any lumps, get rid of the lumps. Get rid of the lumps. So basically what I'm looking for here, as you can see, the whites have started to get bigger, or what they're basically doing is they're starting to suck in air as we're whisking. So we want this to be quite firm. Stir this. Stir this. So I feel like this is like a game of inches, and every time I take it off, what I'm looking for is what the egg whites are doing, right? And right now I've got soft, this is called soft peaks. So we've got this, the beater has left some light marks in the white, but not enough for me to start to incorporate the dry ingredients, because I want them to be a little bit thicker or a bit more peakier than that. So let's have another go. So depending on the type of machine you have will determine how long this process takes. See, now as we've gotten it, you can see that it's really starting to shape. I'm going to go just a little bit further, probably another 30 to 40 seconds, I reckon. So now what we have achieved, as you can see, is it's really beginning to hold firm, which is perfect. So once you get to this position here, where the mixture, you know, it's actually beginning to almost clump. Look at that, can you see? That's what you're looking for. That is the mixture that you're looking for. And as I was saying, depending on how powerful your machine is, will determine how long it's going to take you to get there. But in total, it'll probably take you between 2 to 3 minutes. That's a good judge of time. So what we're going to start to do now is very slowly, with the machine running on about medium, I'm going to very slowly, 1 tablespoon at a time, begin to incorporate the sugar. Now, because this might be a little bit noisy and I won't be able to speak, I'm just going to show you guys what, and then I'll stop it every now and then so you can see the process as we're going. So medium speed, 1 tablespoon at a time. Bit faster. There we go. Bit faster. Beautiful. So I'm going to talk to the camera because I'm closer now. But basically, what we're looking for as we're adding 1 tablespoon at a time is we're looking for the mixtures to start to get glossy. That is the kind of the concept. I'm looking for the gloss. 1 at a time. Right now, what I'm kind of seeing happening is it's really beginning to get quite glossy, which is nice. But the reason we add 1 tablespoon at a time instead of dumping everything in the same time is that we want the sweeteners, I'm not going to call them sugars because they're not that, we want them to dissolve in the egg white. If I was to dump everything at the same time, we'll get a granular or a grainy type of pavlova, hence why we do it slowly. Really happy with this mix. It has come up glossy. I'm just going to test to make sure it's not granular, which is why we did that slow. Oh my gosh, it's so silky smooth. So I'm just going to try it. Tastes really good too. Oh, it tastes really good. So it's really silky smooth. But that whole idea that you do the sugar, you do the added, that sweetness so slowly, that is what's going to give you the most amazingly silky meringue mixture, rather than dumping everything in the same time. And at the same time as you are dissolving the sweeteners, you're also incorporating more air, so you get that. Look at that. Look, and it should do that too. It's not going to fall off the spoon, right? Look at that. Isn't that absolutely fabulous? Oh, it tastes good. Tastes amazing. Tastes amazing. All right. So we're going to add the last 2 ingredients now into the mixing bowl. And the last 2 ingredients are just going to help with color. It's also going to balance the flavors a little bit. So we're going to be adding in 1 teaspoon. So make sure it's just a little drop of apple cider vinegar. Literally 5 mils, right? Like that. Not too much, otherwise you're going to get a vinegary tasting pavlova. That's not nice. And I'm also going to be adding in 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla is going in there, pure vanilla extract. This goes down. 1 last little quick blend. And that's it. that is the mixture done. In total, you're probably looking at around about a 5-minute total mix. But can you see how good that is? That's what you're after. Look, there's no way that's going to come off. That is what you want. You know it is good to go when you have to absolutely bang the beater on the side of your bowl in order to get all the mixture off. That is what you desire most in life. So let's now, I'm just going to put this down. Let's put this out of the way. Let's now look at that. Yes! Are we going to do the test? Of course we are. Are you ready? Do the test. Do the test. Oh no, it's going to fall out. No, I'm not going to do the test because I've got this one bit. Oh yeah, that worked. That worked. That's a good tester as well. But what we have here is we have a pillowy, we have a silky, we have a cloud-like meringue that we have created. And literally, think about this. There's only 6 egg whites in here and a little bit of sweetener, and we have this amazing, gorgeous mess that we've made. So now let's consider what we're going to be doing with this. So I've got my oven currently set at 200 degrees Celsius, which is about 390 degrees Fahrenheit. It is preheating. Behind me, I have some trays that I've already preset with baking paper. Now, please, I just want to remind you guys that when it comes to making this type of pavlova, you need to have a good quality non-stick baking paper, because the last thing you want is the paper sticks to the base of the pavlova. But also what I like to do is I like to spray my baking sheet, just a really thin baking sheet, with a little bit of, whatever oil. I think I've got coconut oil on there. It doesn't matter what oil you use, but that is only so that the baking paper sticks to the sheet. Because the last thing that you want is when you're trying to make the shape of your pavlova is that the baking paper is all funny and it's moving around the place. So I use that coconut oil as it's just a light spray, almost like a bit of glue, just to stick my baking paper down. So we're going to be doing, as I was saying, we're going to be doing 2 sized pavlovas today. The first one I'm going to show you is how, if you decided you wanted to do a wreath pavlova, which is basically, it looks like a Christmas wreath. And it's probably one of my favorite ways to do it because it just looks so stunning once you're finished. You could literally take all of this now and dump it onto here and do a big cake shape. That's up to you. That's easy. I don't have to show you how to do that. But if you decide that a wreath is where you want to go, then a really nice way to do it is by using a tablespoon. What you want to do is take big lovely blobs of this. You could even draw a circle onto your paper of how big you want to have your wreath, and you just drop these lovely blobs onto the paper in a circle fashion. Make sure they're connecting though. You want to make sure they're connecting because you want it to cook like a wreath. But this is literally all you do, is you're creating your own little design here. And the crazier and the more wild the better when it comes to this. So you don't want it to be flat. You actually want it to have peaks and troughs and to actually look a little bit crazy, because the more peaks and troughs you have when the pavlova is gently baking in the oven, the better it's going to look for the finished product. So I'm just literally taking tablespoons and I'm dumping them down onto my tray. There's no kind of rhyme or reason to it, except that I am ensuring that all of the blobs are touching, because I don't really want to have a gap in my Christmas wreath. Now I'm doing a medium-sized wreath. If you were to use all of this mixture, you would need probably a larger baking sheet than what I currently have. But the reason why I am doing a smaller one, because I also am going to show you how to make individual meringues as well. So that is your Christmas wreath. Look at it, isn't it? It's just fantastic. That is, and like I said, the crazier the peaks, the better. So be artistic here, like that. That's just wonderful. That is what we're after. So I'm going to pop that off to the side, because I want to show you guys how to make individuals. I like individuals as well. It's actually quite hard for me to decide what is my actual favorite. And when it comes to these individuals, this is where I have literally made hundreds, maybe even thousands of these. So I have this mold here. It's, I don't know how big it is, maybe a couple of inches, maybe 3 inches of a mold. You could use a cookie cutter, or you could just use, as we were doing with the blobs with the the wreath, you just do that. You just freestyle it. But if you want to be a little bit fancy, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's Christmas. We can all be a bit fancy. All you do is you blob maybe 2, depending on the size of that you like to have your little mini meringues, 2, maybe 3 tablespoons of the meringue mixture goes into the mold. I don't want to flatten it. Remember, peaks and troughs are good, but I just want to make it a little bit wider. And this is called, by the way, an offset spatula. Do you see how it sits there? It's called an offset spatula. It's a real little baby one. It is absolutely perfect for running. You could do this with a knife as well, sharp knife, just running around the edge of the mold. And as you run around the edge of the mold, lift the mold up, and look what you've just made. Isn't that gorgeous? So let's do it one more time. So 2 to 3 tablespoons is usually a really good portion. And if you use this recipe, you're going to get probably 8 mini pavlovas out of this, which is fantastic, right? Isn't that amazing what you can get with 6 egg whites? So 3 tablespoons go into our little mold. Come off, Mr. Tablespoon. I'm leaving a little bit of space in between. They don't rise too much, right? They just kind of start. They basically set in the oven, so you don't have to leave big gaps. In fact, I could probably get 8 of these mini meringues on this sheet quite easily. So remember, our offset spatula. They only cost a couple of bucks too. If you go to a chef store or a cooking store, they're really cheap and they're so handy. So remember, we're just going to go right around the edge of the mold. And as we're going around the edge of the mold, I'm lifting the mold up. And look, isn't it? I know, every time I do it, I'm just like, wow, that looks so cool. Isn't it cute? So that's what we're doing. That's all you're doing. And you decide what shape you want to have everything in. I'll show you a little close up. You ready? Look at that. Isn't that fabulous? And that will set exactly in the shape that you have it in. So you see this, you've got these little peaks everywhere. It'll set in that with that little peak. So you have the most gorgeous little mini pavlovas. Or of course, you have this little beauty here, which is our wreath pavlova. And I'm going to show you guys very soon how to decorate both of those. And what you would do at this point in time, if you were doing 2 trays of pavlovas at once, you definitely need to have a fan on your oven. Your oven is currently set at 200 degrees, which is quite hot for pavlova. But what you're going to do is you're going to go over to the oven with these 2 trays. You're going to open the oven door. And immediately that you open the oven door, you're going to drop that temperature down. Before the pavlova goes in, you're going to drop it down to 110 degrees Celsius, which is 230 degrees Fahrenheit. You're going to drop it down really, really low. And these pavlovas are now going to bake at that low temperature. They're going to bake in there for about 45 to 60 minutes, yeah? And if you're doing 2 trays, please remember to swap the trays over halfway through the baking as well. So 45 to 60 minutes, you're starting at 200 degrees Celsius, which is 390, and you're dropping it down to 110, which is 230 degrees Fahrenheit. 45 to 60 minutes. In the oven they go. Yes, Mahi, I got a question.
Could you use just an electric egg beater versus a whisk?
I have a question.
Could you
The question was?
Yeah. Could you use just an electric egg
Could you use
beater?
an electro? I'm thinking about you mean a handheld whisk? Yeah, absolutely. Probably the only thing you want to not do is do it by hand, only because you need to achieve that really light fluffiness in order to get a really good meringue. So I would probably just avoid it by hand, but there's nothing stopping you from using a handheld one. It'll probably just take you maybe twice as long as my machine, which is obviously built for whipping and stuff like that. So now that we have the pavlovas done, right? 45 to 60 minutes, your pavlovas are going to be cooking. What's going to happen is it's going to obviously to set, and it's such a low temperature that it doesn't bake firm. It bakes quite soft, and because we are using not sugars, the alternative to sugars, like healthy versions of sugar, still sweet but healthy, you're not going to get a crisp exterior of your pavlova. This is something that you need to know. It's like a chewy, pillowy meringue that you're going to be achieving. So after 45 to 60 minutes, obviously keep an eye on it. After 45 to 60 minutes, it's going to be lovely color on the outside, but it's still going to be quite sort of tender and very, very meringue-like exterior and interior, which is wonderful. So the next thing you want to think about is what you're going to be putting on top of it. And as we were saying, prior, this is a dairy-free, this is a dairy-free and a gluten-free and a sugar-free pavlova. So of course the cream that we're going to be putting onto it is dairy-free as well. So I'm going to teach you guys how to do the cream. Come on back down to my bench, please. Come down here. The cream that we're doing today, where is it? I've lost it. Oh, it's over here. So in my bowl already, I had some spare cream. I have just literally a bowl of coconut cream. So in order to get coconut cream looking that thick that it won't fall out of your bowl, what you need to do is you take your cans of coconut cream. You probably only need 1 can for this recipe. I don't know why I've got 2. I get a bit greedy sometimes, that's probably why. So you're only going to need 1 can, but you want to leave that can in the fridge overnight, 24 hours even, if you can manage it. You want to leave it in the fridge there. So what's going to happen when that coconut cream, not milk, when that coconut cream is in the fridge, what's going to happen is the coconut fat, the solids, are going to separate from the liquid. And what you're going to basically have on top of this can is you're going to have that, which is really, really thick, and the liquid's going to be down the bottom. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. So once you've had your can in the fridge for, at least 24 hours is more ideal. I actually always have cans of coconut cream in the fridge because you never know. Like, I'm one of those weirdos. You never know when you need to do something with it, right? So I always have it in the fridge. But 24 hours is a really good guide. So firstly, when you go to take this out of the fridge, be very careful. Don't shake it because you don't want to redistribute the solids which have risen to the top and the liquid which has gone to the bottom. You just want that. Look at that. Oh my goodness. And yes, I'm using an organic coconut cream as well. Oh my God, that's so amazing. So what you want to do with your spoon is you just want to go into your can and you just want to extract the thick stuff. Because remember, the solids have separated because of the cold temperature from the liquid. And so you just want to go in with your spoon and extract all the thick stuff. And then can you see what I've got in the bottom there? That there, I've probably got 1 more spoon. That there is more like a coconut milk or a very thick coconut water. Don't throw that away. Oh my gosh, put that in a curry. Oh, delicious. So that is the separation there. So what you have in your bowl now is this wonderful coconut cream that you almost don't have to do. Look at that. You don't have to do pretty much anything to it. It's already lovely and thick. But there are a few things that we can do to it. One of the things that we can do to it is we can make it a little bit sweeter, of course. So the way that we're going to be doing that, let me find the right, yes, this is the right one, is that much, which is a 400 gram can, which is just your average can. I think that's about 14 ounces, I think. That's from memory, sorry, that's 14 ounces, but that's 400 mils. So just your standard can. You're probably going to need around about 2 tablespoons of inulin powder to give it a bit of sweetness, but I will leave that up to you as well. If you want to add a little bit more, especially if you're doing this for kids or younger people or people who are used to eating sugar, you might need to add a little bit more. But I find with us here in the house, we're all kind of used to not having sugar, so it's actually quite easy. So I'm going over to my little hand mixer. Now, if you're wondering whether I could have done the pavlova with this, yes, I could, but it just would have taken me twice as long. So these things do work. They absolutely do work. It just requires a little bit more effort. So let's just mix that through. And just like you're making whipped cream, right? Have a taste. Yummy. So good. Now you could at this point put in a little bit of vanilla if you wanted to, up to you. Just a touch, then you get like a chantilly cream. you're wondering about this cream, so it's all quite liquidy, and it's literally just like making whipped cream, is that this cream is very stable. So once it thickens, it holds really, really well. So even if you're serving this at, you know, in a humid condition, it still works really, really good. Pretty happy with what we have here. We have a lovely thick cream. It's quite spreadable. It could probably go a little bit thicker than this. You could go just a little bit longer, but just because, you know, you guys are watching and I don't expect you to watch forever me whipping cream, let's move on. Let's move on to the next stage. So unless Mahi wants to do it, do you want to stand here and do this? Off camera. There you go. You can whip my cream for me. There you go. Push that button. No, one down there. Yep. Yep. One down there. Yep. There you go. All right. Right up here. All right. So Mahi's still whipping my cream, making it a little bit thicker. And what we want to think about now is the type of toppings we would potentially put on top of our pavlova. So traditionally, right, that is so traditional. Strawberry, oh my god, blueberries, rainberries, raspberries are very good as well. Kiwi fruit is very classic. And the last one, some cherries are going to go on top. But it's up to you. That is good. Thank you, Mahoney. That was wonderful. Thank you. A little bit thicker, usually. But it's up to you, you know, what sort of toppings you decide you want to put onto your pavlova. But those are the classic. And in fact, that's how we can kind of know that New Zealand was the inventor of the pavlova. Yeah. I may be upsetting some of my Aussie relatives as I talk about this, but one of the reasons we know that New Zealand was the inventor of the pavlova is because traditionally pavlova is served with kiwi fruit and not red, but strawberries. And that is because the ballerina that pavlova was named after, Anna Pavlova, who was a Russian ballerina, and she was part of the Russian ballet that had come to tour Australia and New Zealand. When she was in New Zealand, a Wellingtonian hotel chef was so enamored with her and her beauty and what she could do that he designed this pavlova based on her floating tutu. And Anna Pavlova's tutu for this particular ballet had red and green flowers on it. So he did red strawberries for the red flowers and he did kiwi fruit for the green. So there you go, that's my story. Anyway, that's what I'm sticking to. All right, so imagine it's now 45 to 60 minutes later. Our pavlovas are done. Let me show you the little minis that we have created. Check it out. Aren't they gorgeous? Obviously, all you need to do is peel them. Let them cool on the tray for about 10 minutes. And then peel them very gently off the baking paper. And they peel really well. You can see you get a little bit of sticky, but not too bad. And then I would suggest that you, whatever you determine you're going to be serving these pavlovas on, is where you dress them. So you don't want to move them once they're dressed as well. So those are our individuals, and don't they look a treat? Remember I said that no matter what little peaks and trough you have, that's what you're going to get. That is what you're going to get. So they're very gorgeous. So those are our individuals. And our wreath pavlova, which is here, I've also managed to peel off the baking paper, but be careful when you peel the wreath off, because it may break on you, but it doesn't matter because you can just glue it back together on your serving platter. So the wreath goes on there, and then it's really just up to you to decide how to decorate it. So of course, that wonderful coconut cream with a bit of inulin goes in there. Like I said, you could do vanilla on there as well, but I quite like the coconut cream. Has a really nice flavor when it comes to this pavlova, and this pavlova, as we all know, is not overly sweet. So it does definitely, you know, it's one for us no sugar people, but it's good enough that even people who do regularly eat sugar have no idea when you serve them as pavlova. So start with the cream down the bottom and then begin to work your magic. This is when you get artistic and you start to place all these wonderful bits of fruit around the edges. This is why I love the wreath, because it is your time to shine, it's your time to play, do lots of beautiful things. That's why cherries are so good, and cherries are so good. Let me just say that, cherries are so good. So start with your bigger fruits always, and then move on down the line. Look at colours. Yes, we got a question.
How long can you keep the pavlova?
How long can you keep the pavlova? Look, this is not, and this is not one that keeps that well, I'm afraid. This is one that you probably want to make only the day before you intend to serve it. It will last overnight definitely, but this is not one that you make 3 or 4 days in advance, because you're dealing with egg whites, and egg whites, when there's nothing else in there to keep it stable, which is basically refined sugar, they will tend to deflate a little bit. So I would tend to make this pavlova the day before, like the night before I intend to serve it, but I don't let it go any further than that usually. It is one that is best eaten as close to making as possible, but it never lasts that long in our house anyway, eh love?
Nope.
It's pretty good. So put on some dark berries, they always look good as well. You could do, you don't have to do berries. You could do all those wonderful low sugar fruit that we've talked about so often. For instance, you could be putting on here any type of stone fruit, which is in season in summer, of course. You could be putting watermelon is really nice, especially if you use a little cookie cutter, and you can make little hearts and shapes out of your watermelon, which is gorgeous. You could also think of putting on, what's another wonderful fruit? You could, of course, our kiwi fruit. I'm just cutting up a few strawberries here because they always look really good. Strawberries, but it really is up to you how you decide that you want to design your pavlova. And I would suggest the last thing that you do just before you serve, and the more fruit the better, because that's all part of the excitement of eating something like this, is you have that wonderful texture from the fruit as well as the soft pillowy meringue. So don't be shy when it comes to putting fruit on your pavlova. But I must admit, my favourite fruit is what you're seeing right now. That is my favourite. I do like the summer fruits, because pavlova is definitely a Christmassy summer sort of thing for us folks. And the last thing that you want to think about when it comes to obviously creating this wonderful, look at that, isn't it gorgeous, this wonderful wreath, is a little bit of dust. In other words, grab your inulin. This becomes your icing sugar. Got my little tea strainer, which is the perfect little sieve, and then just go right around and dust those beautiful fruit in some of that wonderful inulin, especially if your fruit's a little bit on the sour side, which can happen sometimes. This is just going to make it so delicious. But just do this just before you serve. Do that little inulin. Isn't that gorgeous? My goodness, isn't that gorgeous? And of course, you do exactly the same thing with those guys, or if you're feeling really spectacular, you just leave out bowls of fruit and a bowl of cream, and then you let everyone DIY, is that right? Do it yourself, that's right, DIY their own meringues, which is also really spectacular as well, as you let them do that, and then you get that. Oh, look. Isn't that stunning? And so easy to do, and so, I was going to say energy efficient, but I want to say so budget friendly, because you're just basically dealing with egg whites and a bit of sweetener. And then of course, your fruit of choosing. Another really nice combination of fruit here is banana and passion fruit. Let me tell you, that is absolutely delicious. But there you have it. This is my Christmas spectacular pavlova, sugar-free, dairy-free, gluten-free, grain-free, all the frees, but definitely not free from flavor, not free from taste. And I have to say that this reminds me of Christmas, reminds me of home, makes me feel nostalgic just looking at it, just smelling it. So please enjoy this recipe. I will be sharing the updated recipe of this tomorrow on Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, just so you can make sure to get your copy of the updated version, so you can, make this amazing sugar-free pavlova for your loved ones this Christmas. So thank you for joining me. Don't forget, we've got another class on Saturday. We're going to be making the most delicious mulled wine. It is time for mulled wine on Saturday here in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. Until then, everyone take care, be safe, be well, and we'll see you next time back here in the kitchen. Bye-bye.